welcome today. We start off with some news before we start with a real session and wait for the rest of the people to join. Some interesting hot off the press news. Trump probably announced, but nobody's really sure if this really is going to happen, that Microsoft is suddenly interested in taking over TikTok, and we see what comes from that. Of course, that is part of this fight between China and the United States. What's also concerning AI, and as you've all seen, is that Trump announced with, and this is such an odd picture with those people standing there, Sam Altman and the Ubisoft bankman. But that was an announcement of $5 billion investment in Stargate in order to secure the United States lead in AI. That's only part from a huge amount of communication about AI and the developments that are going in a real significant speed right now. And then there suddenly was DeepSeek. And what is so important about DeepSeek, that for one reason or another, this Chinese company discovered that you can train AI models for far less money than the current players in AI modeling, especially the US players, are doing. And that caused a lot of trouble and commotion on the stock markets. And this is only a signal, because we'll still have to see if it is even safe to use a Chinese AI tech company. But what it does is that it shows the dynamic in the market and this enormous competition between China and the US. And that will only drive the developments and the importance of AI and what it will trigger in the market. And that's also what this report of the Economic Forum tells, that AI is getting beyond the experiment stage. It is really going to transform many industries, and that is reflected, and you can find the download link is on the slide, but you can find it easily if you start looking for the Economic World Forum and look at the AI in Action title. But what this shows is that many industries, and this percentage is the percentage growth of investments in AI on the vertical axis. And what you see is that there's an enormous increase already in 2023 and 2024 of the investments. Somebody's got his mic open. What you can see is there's an enormous amount of increase in the money in the investment in AI by companies. And you can also see, and that's deeper in the report, that is every company that is heavily involved with its customers, those sectors are in the front increase of AI use at the current moment. But you see that these are staggering percentages of investments that are being made. And that's also reflected in the publications about AI. It is no longer about only the experiments, it is about the use cases to realize a value with AI. And all the consultancy agencies do agree. There's an enormous unanimity in what they think. It is potential to profit, that's BCG. Advancing AI, the AI conversation, that's Deloitte. And what you see is that what now is the hot topic, and that's what we're also going to address today, is the dawn of AI agents. And AI agents are the next level, and everything we're going to discuss today is also applicable to AI agents. AI agents are actually machines talking to machines and improving their conversations while having that conversation or the information exchange. And that looks very promising and will probably, well, be the next level in automation of a lot of processes, but it also requires a lot of regulations, a lot of thinking of what those systems can and may do and how you are going to structure that. And that is actually pretty much also the theme of today, where I would like to hand over to Gerrit to do the formal introduction of this session. This is session 12, and it's the 5th session where we talk about advanced B2B commerce empowered by AI. Gerrit, I would like to hand over to you.
Yes, Arjen, thank you very much. Today we are still real people talking, so no agents doing the presentation yet. But on behalf of Intershop, I would like to welcome everybody for this indeed 12th session already for the B2B frontrunners. The first one in 2025. As you said, my name is Gerrit Enthoven, responsible for sales, and also will take over customer success management within Intershop. And of course, I'm happy that so many of you already joined in this session, and that you invest your time today in and listen to this great program that we have again. Indeed, as you remember, we had 4 sessions before to create a roadmap to advance B2B commerce in an AI-powered world. And we're doing this with the help of the intelligent customer interactions model that you see here on the screen. So this model creates a roadmap based on 5 steps. Started with the analyze phase, the imagine phase, design phase, measure phase, and now we are in the manage phase. This phase is all about the implementation of new ways of working, right? And how you are going to manage your AI in your B2B commerce space. I don't know if you have seen the examples of companies like Apple and Amazon, where they introduced AI as a solution, and they had to take it back because the AI that they created started to hallucinate a little bit. Of course, the possibilities are huge, but you also need to find the right guardrails to manage it. So let's take a look. If you go one slide back, please, Arjen, for the agenda. So we're happy that Leonie is here again today to share practical insights about her experiences with AI. And of course, Arjen will first kick off to explain more about the managed steps specifically. And then after Leonie, we will have Niels and Ronnie showing practical solutions that we have already developed at Intershop and that some of our customers are already implementing. I mean, things are going really fast, so we are really beyond the experiment phase. People are really starting to use it in production. So I'm really curious about that session, of course. And then we will round up with a Q&A. If you have any questions during the sessions, please paste them in the chat, and we will cover them in the final part, in the Q&A part. During the session, we will also have some polls. So if you have your computer, your mobile available, you can answer those polls. And then, of course, after that, we will also share the results of those polls. So I think we can start then, right, Arjen? Yeah, these are, oh yeah, I have to share also, I mean, we are here in the B2B frontrunners, it's all about sharing. And so we created a lot of videos that are available for you. We created action papers, so every session that we did, we created an action paper out of it. And also out of this session, we will create an action paper for you. And I'll talk about that more at the end of the session. We also created a white paper that help you to guide your C-level in the implementation of AI. So let's start with the 5th step, the manage step. The floor is yours, Arjen. Yeah.
I'll unmute myself. Thank you very much, Merit, for the introduction. Yes, it's not the measure, it's the managed step where we're talking about today. Well, my name is Arjen. You've seen me before in these sessions. And as Gerard mentioned, this is the fifth session, and we looked at 4 sessions already in 2024. And we learned some significant things in those sessions. We learned that we are entering the individual age and that technology is actually driving these developments that, well, from mass marketing, we're now getting to hyper-personalization thanks to AI and IoT, and that's only the beginning. And well, the news item only illustrated how AI will drive these developments and how that will go in an increasingly high speed. Actually, what is happening is that if you look at customer journeys, they become intelligent. They become intelligent customer interactions. They are not fixtures anymore like we used to see them, where you can draw out a journey for specific audiences. People go crisscross around their journey, and you have to be able to target your content based on algorithms to their individual needs at every point at that interaction process. And you have to take into account who they are, if they're initial customers, if they're returning customers or loyal customers, and have to figure the right content. So instead of this journey fixture, we get into intelligent customer interactions, hyper-personalized, with content pushed to the right device, in the right channel, with personalized content made to measure for every individual at every point you interact with them. That's what technology is going to bring us, and that is what DeepSpeak and all that acceleration is actually about. Also being able to target unstructured and handle unstructured information and make conversations with your customers. And we also established that technology will enable that, and that's what we're currently seeing. But we also know that technology is only 30% of the equation. 70% is about the organization. And actually, that is what the managed session of today is about. And let's elaborate a little bit more on that. Because manage in the individual age is about leadership. It is not only about experimenting, it's about real implementation. And that's also related to what we've seen in the news. 2025 will be the year where we see that intelligent customer interaction and AI will really take off and will be part of business strategy. And that is where leadership should act. And they should start with a data intelligence philosophy. And that might seem abstract, but we can make that very tangible. That is about how personal do you want to get as an organization? What data of customers do you want to use? Do you believe in data minimalization? And that sounds odd, but anybody that has read the EU data regulation knows that it is a principle that's enforced by law. You may not save data where you don't have a specific use case for, or don't have the specific approval of your audience. It is something that needs to be embedded in the way you act as an organization. How transparent are you on data use with your customers? Are you like Apple, who's telling everybody that they never ever will share your data for commercial use? Or are you Meta or Google that have turned your data into their business model? That's something that needs to be in the core of your DNA. What kind of philosophy you have on those aspects in relating to data. Do you exploit your customer data? And how careful do you treat privacy? In my best estimate, a lot of companies are currently using advanced AI features without actually being compliant with legal obligations to treat that data carefully. So these are the aspects that you need to embed in your customer philosophy if you want to start doing what we are technologically being enabled to do, get very personal with customers. And in the end, it's all about how do you earn your customers' trust. So that's the philosophy that is part of what your leadership should take into account. That should be a standard procedure within your organization. And the same goes for how do you then embed that in a process structure. Who owns the customer interactions in your organization? If every interaction gets individual, how do you manage that process? Who leads that process? Who controls that process? How do you make sure that every interaction in any channel, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a web interaction, whether it's an app interaction, whether it's a personal sales interaction, how do you make sure that they are consistent, that they are based on the right customer data, and that are in line with what happened in the other channel? How do you ensure that everybody in the company that creates a customer interaction makes sure that it is customer centric? How do you manage the consistency, even in the naming or the way you talk, or do you know what has been said on the phone if you act in a chatbot with them? How do you make sure that all these interactions are compliant? Can you use all that data of a customer? Can everybody in your organization use the same data of that customer? Can you actually access the depth state of your customer when you're talking with them? Or are there some regulations about it? So there has to be an operating structure that also determines, is it actually effective? What are we doing? How are we measuring the effectiveness? And how do we prioritize actions we have with our customers? So you need a framework, a structured framework. And we've discussed that in the previous session, that actually in every customer interaction, you have to look at, is it according to ID and privacy regulations, and do we honor the status of a customer? Do we have the content? Do we understand what this customer wants to reach or what we want to achieve with the customer at that interaction? Have we structured that this interaction will be 100% sure and consistent? And if we start communicating with on an individual level, do we make sure that if we have a recommendation, that we recommend a product that is also available? That's not a marketing issue. That's something that there you have to rely on different and other departments. And the same goes for, it has to be facilitated by your IT and data process. Do you have the data available that you need to have that seamless interaction? And it also applies on your proposition and business models. Suddenly you start providing much more information, and it is not always about that instant transaction anymore. It's about building that trust with your customer and collecting the data. And then your proposition as a platform of value, or as a platform, also is about collecting data of your customers. So it needs a framework. It needs a way of working, for instance, with stories, that you always make sure that you cover all these aspects in the way you create those intelligent customer interactions. So you need a philosophy, you need a process structure and an operating model. This doesn't grow from the bottom up. And as we've seen that a lot of experiments, and also in these sessions presented a lot of experiments that were especially initiated by people and at the operational side, once they take ground and once they start to grow, you have to develop a philosophy, you have to develop a standardized product structure and a different way of working. That does not only go for the way you work, but also for your infrastructure. You need an infrastructure that facilitates these individual personal interactions. And this will be a part of the discussion, and also we will look into the Intershop, the solution Intershop created for this. Interaction will be driven by algorithms. So what you need is a composable architecture where you have these interaction content and the algorithms in place. That has to be a solid framework, but yet it has to be flexible enough to, well, suddenly you have deep speak and you would like to connect that to this environment or other new developments. This requires a different way of looking at architecture. At the one hand, it needs to be solid. At the other hand, it has to be flexible enough to adapt to new developments in order to make this advanced ways of communication possible. This is also not something that rises from the bottom up. All those experiments we've done with AI need not be translated into a vision on how you structure that as an architecture, as a framework or a platform. And that's what we will discuss in the next couple of minutes as well. And then you get at the core of what you actually want to achieve. Enrich that customer data. In this AI-powered B2B commerce world, data is actually the core asset of companies. So you have to have a clear vision on what you want to achieve and what you want everybody to know in your organization on what you're pursuing with that data. And that requires a different KPIs that not only are simple conversion calculations. That's about what do we create on in terms of commitment, and what do we create in terms of economical value, not in that single conversion in a transaction, but in what you build in a relationship with your customers. So that leads to different KPIs. That leads to KPIs as personal data completeness that suddenly needs to be something that is central into the thinking of everybody in your organization. We are not only trying to sell somebody something, of course we do, but we also want to enrich the data of that customer with that purchase information, but also with everything else we learn from there. So it's not only using the data, but it's also about enriching the data. And probably Leonie will later touch upon that you need to be sure that the data that you use is correct and is consistent. And whatever source you use, that data should be reliable. That is why you need different KPIs than prior to that. That is personal data completeness. That is lifetime value. That's a value we already use, but it's also interaction frequency. Because if you don't have interactions, you can't influence behavior. You can't accelerate in purchases. You can't do cross and upsell. It's also about the actual value that you generate this year opposed to the long-term value developments. And the interesting part of it is that if it's about data, you do not need to know it only on an overall level. These are individual scorecards with exactly the same 5 values you see here on an individual customer level. And actually, they become part of the way to design your algorithms to target that content on an individual level. In some cases, it might be more relevant to start pushing on a relationship than on the next purchase if you're looking for lifetime value with our customers. And in this whole equation of turning interaction into a relationship and in a conversation with our customers, suddenly these things are starting to be very important. Customer engagement, not in the sense of NPS, but on an individual level, becomes a precondition to manage the relationship. So it is the responsibility of your leadership to think about what it takes to enable intelligent customer interaction. And of course, you can feed that process, and every one of us that's doing operational things with AI has got a clear vision on what it requires. Given the state of AI developments, it is now the responsibility of leadership to turn that into strategy, to implement a customer-centric way of working, and from there put the customer really at the core of your organization. Having said all that, it is interesting and nice to hear from a more practical perspective how that works. So therefore, I would like to hand over to Leonie. Leonie, who is a channel manager at ISERO, and well, she will do her own introduction of the company as well. And please, Leonie, tell us all about the practical experiments you are doing, and also how that affects your company's vision on the use of data and the use of AI. Please go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Leonie Jansen, and I'm an online marketeer, not a channel manager, but it's its name, at ISERO, and I'm going to show you how we started, a very practical approach of how we started with AI at ISERO. ISERO is a technical wholesaler in Iron Montgomery and construction products. So for Iron Montgomery, you have to think about screws, nails, chains, everything with iron in it. We focus on B2B customers. That's our target audience. Consumers are also welcome to buy something, but it's not our target audience. And we specialize in certain article groups, which are hinges and locks, tools, Iron Montgomery and fasteners, workwear, and PPE. And PPE is personal protection equipment. Think of face masks, gloves, fall protection. And I see here we say 69 branches, but it's 71 branches already through the whole Netherlands. Small logistics summary. Our distribution center is in Waddinxveen, which is very well known internationally. If not, it's next to Gouda, which is in the west of the Netherlands. And I want to point out 2 bullet points in the sheet, and that is we have 50,000 products in stock and 150,000 products orderable. So I think that's a lot. We have an omni-channel strategy, so we don't mind if a customer checks a product on our website to see if we have it and then go to the store to buy it, or calls or WhatsApps, or anyhow, if they buy the product with us, we don't mind that they don't always use the online channel. All the channels should help each other. And then the question why we choose for an algorithm for our web shop, and that was very, very practical and simple because we needed a solution for our cross and upsell suggestions to fill them all. As I already said, we have 50,000 products in stock and 150,000 products which are orderable. And we have a small team, and that small team was adding all the cross and upsells manually, which resulted in very time-consuming processes, and also it was never complete. Manually, adding manually is also subjective. So my colleague thinks that this is the best cross or upsell for this product, but it was not checked with the data. It's static. So if there were new products or products would go end of life, so would go out of our stock, they would just disappear on the website and also in the cross and upsells. And as I already said, it's incomplete. So we needed a solution to fill all those upsells and cross sells, and that was where AI came in. AI is a one-time investment. To set it up is maybe a little bit more time than your colleague spent on adding all those things manually, but eventually it will learn itself because you say what he needs to calculate, and with adding new sales data and new product data, it will learn by itself what he needs to suggest. Also, you will have a reflection of the customer behavior because it's already sold to a customer in that way. And of course, you can say it's all complete. Every product can have a cross or upsell. Also good to mention, I forget that, is that our customers expect good up and cross sells on our website because they have B2C experiences, and also because they tell us in our NPS surveys that they expect not only cross and upsells on your P2P page, but also good cross and upsells. If they think they're not good, they also mention it. So to summarize, we want to fill our cross and upsell suggestions. And our goal here is to put the knowledge of our salesmen in the algorithm. So we want actually to digitalize our branch salesmen. And we were doing that, or we were going to do that. We are doing that now by using our own product and sales data and other data in the Spark algorithm. So it's all first-party data. And the challenge here is that the algorithm needs to put up with the knowledge and gut feeling of our salesmen. So if it shows something as a cross-sell or upsell, it should be the same product which the guy behind the counter also would advise at for somebody. So a few things we have done as example, we tested with the strategy which sales source was better, so only branches or only online. And we guided the strategy in what he was allowed to show. So for example, with the cross-sell, you want to see not similar products, not the same kind of products. And for example, our customers who buy a screw are typically known that they also buy other screws in other dimensions, but you don't want to see that as a cross-sell, but as an alternative. So that's an example how I guided the strategy through what he was allowed to show. And now maybe for the most interesting part for the managers is how do you get your algorithm accepted by your organization? We started by checking manually the cross and upsells of every product in the top 100 most sold products. So literally exporting Excel files, and I was gathering my colleagues with practical knowledge and say, okay, I'm viewing this product. These products are being suggested by the algorithm. Is it correct? By doing that for the top 100 is mostly practical, but also if it is wrong what it shows, the customers will see that immediately because it's the most sold product. And also make sure you can answer logical when a colleague asks you why a certain product is being shown. So not the, yes, that's something the algorithm does, because that doesn't help with accepting the algorithm and accepting the way we are using it. So, for example, we decided that at first the algorithm was only allowed to show products in his output which were standard stock in our distribution center. So local stock of the branches was not calculated. So it's obvious when someone calls you and says, well, I have this in my branch and I think that's a better cross-sell than the one you're showing, that I can explain why the algorithm is showing that product and not his product. So how do you do that? We do it because we picked a tool which shows every step of the recommendation, every calculated step. I had a great sheet where I can show that, but I didn't put it in this presentation, sorry. I can send it afterwards if someone wants to know how it looks. But you have to see it as an organogram. I don't know if that's logical, but you have different blocks, and with all those blocks, you are saying to the algorithm what he needs to do. And because of that, you can click on every block, and every block can show you, okay, well, with this rule you're telling me right now, so if you're telling me I can only use the stock from the distribution center, and you're viewing this product, then I can show you these products as a cross-sell. So it's also working backwards. You get certain results and you can check backwards every step why a certain product is not shown, in which step it's being thrown out, for example. And even better, not only an AI algorithm tool which shows you the steps, but maybe one where you can build it yourself. It's easier than it sounds. Also here, what I already said in a few sheets back, it will cost some time to understand the algorithm, how it works. But if you know how it works, it will be much easier to add data or get new ideas to make new strategies. And Spark can do this, a little bit of advertisement. So in short, for an algorithm to be accepted, what my learnings are, is that you should know the why. So why is some product being shown? And because of that, so colleagues asked me questions and made suggestions. And because of that, these are a few examples. What we have to find, where we have to find a solution for, is that they already entered manually cross and upsells. So they said, well, I understand you want to let it be calculated by an algorithm, but we put work in there, so we want to see our work back. So we needed to find a solution for that. New products without sales history. If you say to your algorithm, you should show a product which is being sold most, and you have a new product, it will not have sales history, so it won't be shown. So we had to think of a solution for that as well. End of life products who go out of stock or go out of our assortment. If it goes out of our assortment, do we want to show it until it's really out? Do we want to show it, not show it anymore because we know it's going out of the assortment? Do we want to put the product which is in place 2 as a recommendation in place 1, or is there a replacement for the product which goes out of stock or out of the assortment? So these are all things you have to think about, and maybe tell the algorithms that he has to check for the replacement first. If there's not a replacement, then you're going to pick second product and put it in the first. And funny thing, what we saw is that coffee is a cross-sell for literally any product we sell. So with every product, even if it was a big machine or it was a small screw, coffee was a cross-sell. So we understand it, but we choose to take that one out of the cross-sells and maybe put it somewhere like in your shopping cart or anything, like, do you also need coffee? But that was a funny thing which occurred there. And yeah, I think that's a summary of how we implemented AI and how we got our organization convinced that it's a good thing, because I think that's the most, how do you say that, rewarding sign is that our colleagues eventually were opening the website to check what a cross-sell was or what an alternative was for a certain product in the ERP system they were adding to their ticket, to their selling order. And eventually they asked if the algorithm could also be built in the ERP itself. So they don't have to go to the website, but they can check in the ERP with one click what the cross-sells were. And that happened. So it's in the ERP system right now. And a nice thing about that is because it's in the ERP, it was easier for us to also calculate the stock of the branch itself. So not only they see the products which are for the distribution center standard stock, but also their own.
Okay.
I think that was it.
Wow, thank you very much for this great story, Leonie. A very interesting talk. We're going to have a little chat about it, but we're going to do a brief poll right now, where we can ask all the participants in this session. Please fill out this short poll. You can see it also. You can see it in the chat, and there you can answer. And we will use it in the discussion with Leonie. This question is because Leonie told a story which was very natural. We started doing this, we started doing that. But Leonie, who did you have to convince to start using AI? Is it only this money question, or was it also a deliberate choice not to just automate some of those suggestions or use a black box tooling, but use a advanced AI tool like Spark?
Well, I think the first thing you have to explain is there's a difference between generative AI and normal AI, as you would like to call it. So generative AI is ChatGPT, DALL-E, a thing that makes new things, which is for some people a bit frightening. So if you go to your management team and say, I want to use AI, and they think of generative AI, maybe that's a red flag already. But if you explain, I want to use AI, which is with our own data, so we can control what's being shown, there's already a difference in the word AI. So maybe that's the first step to explain what you want to use. In our case, using AI to fill the cross and upsell, so make an efficient call, make an efficient reason for it, that was not really something we have to convince a manager. What they were worried about is about the data we were going to send to that supplier. So we were going to send them very, very valuable data of our selling statistics of our products. And they were more worried about that our data wouldn't end up at a competitor who was also doing business with with Spark, or maybe with a data leak or something like that. So using AI, and the reason for using AI wasn't like a frightening thing for our management, but more the how do you say that, sharing of our data. That was their biggest concern.
Okay, and you said you made the distinction between AI and generative AI, but in your story you explained that your AI is now, overruling human logic in suggestions you make because it learns, and then the distinction between AI and generative AI starts disappearing. And how is your organization looking at that? Are they willing to believe the AI generated data, and is that increasing, or how do you see that development?
Yes, they want to believe it, but because otherwise I think that the people in the branches wouldn't ask to build it in the ERP system. So They do believe it. A key in this is what I also said in my presentation, is that I can explain to them how it works. So if they say, I think this should be there, I can tell them why it's not there. And then you get different questions because, for example, if they have something in their own branch, which is a better selling cross-sell than the one AI is suggesting, because we said you can only use the stock at the distribution center, then that's a question for another department. So the Spark is not wrong. It just shows a unlogical decision made somewhere to put that product not in a standard distribution stock. So, he can say, I think this one is better. And I agree, if the data says it is, but we say, no, only the standard distribution stock should be in there. Then you have another question. So he has to go to a different department for that.
Yeah.
And the reason you can also say, why do you only use your distribution stock? Because we are working on the local stock, also including in the strategies, is that what can happen is that a battery is being suggested to someone as a cross-sell or an alternative, which is only in stock at the east side of the Netherlands. So what will happen, someone in the west side will buy a battery, which will go on a truck, which will ride to the west, which will deliver the pack of batteries there. So those are things we want to not to happen. So that's why we chose to put the standard stock in. We are working on the local stock.
That maybe that also relates to the question we popped in the chat, this poll question. In your opinion, if you would have answered the question, do you see data strategies as a leadership or departmental responsibility? What would you have answered?
Shared.
Shared. But in your story and also in our preparational talks, what came out of these stories is that you hold a lot of knowledge, and actually you are driving a lot of the discussions, also in the examples you gave, on how the use of AI is, well, actually changing the way other departments work. Wouldn't it be logic that your senior leadership would envision that, or is that something that only comes up by doing it in practice?
I think that maybe they, you hear a lot about AI, and it's some kind of oracle thing which can help you everywhere, but practically they don't know how to use it. So if you make it small, like for instance for the cross sells, or maybe for another solution with logistics, or maybe then they come up with ideas of their own just because they are seeing what it can do, because it's being a concrete solution, not only a big cloud with give you all kinds of solutions and things. No, they know how it works. So for example, because they were thinking about AI, they thought of a way to make, how do I explain it? If we get a delivery at the distribution center, all the tickets everyone sends are different. So it's a manually thing to check what's in there and to enter that in the system. But you want to make that automatically. Because of what they saw, what an AI can do, they made a solution with an AI tool to read them automatically. So that is also an efficiency thing. But they have to see first what things can do and make it small for your own business.
Okay, but you could argue that leadership should envision, and that they should maybe be a little bit ahead of the troops instead of responding to your practical insights. But let's not go into that discussion. There's a question in the chat. Marco asked if there, next to the benefits mentioned like completeness and time saving, does Leonie sees increase in sales conversion, AOV, and or customer satisfaction? Can you answer that, Leonie?
Yeah, well, the short question is yes.
Yeah. Well, Marco, there you go. The answer is yes.
That's what you need. No, yeah, of course. And also because, because the team that was doing was was so incomplete that when we started to add it to everything, you saw that every product needs a cross-sell or an upsell. You know, they expect it, but it also needs it. The clicks went up, the conversion went up. So yeah, that's the short solution, of the short answer.
This is the best answer ever, Leonie. So
I would say no.
give credit to everybody who worked to it, and especially to yourself for your enthusiasm and drive in implementing this. I think you're a great example of how individual interaction makes things tick, and in this case, you who is driving these developments within ISERO. So thank you very much for your contribution. We now go to a duo presentation of Ronnie Swialowski and Niels Reitman, both of Intershop, but they're going to talk about agentic AI and about a co-pilot and the enormous speed Intershop is also making in these areas. But I'll hand over to you because you can explain that far better than I can. Please go ahead, Ronnie and Niels.
Yeah, thanks, Arjen. Yeah, so if you like experimentation and also not easily frightened by AI, we really have a nice topic today. But I'll start with some background, some statistics here that AI is already a big driver in many companies. 50% of companies are using it in some way. And I like this number, even 60% of AI usage is driven by employees bringing your own AI to the workplace. So even paying for these AI with their own money. So this really shows how valuable it is. The business owner's top priorities are, of course, revenue growth, cost savings, but also talent management and retention. And this brings me really to a new sub-trend, let's say, within the AI topic. And this is really the augmented workforce. So because to achieve these ambitious goals, and we even have to do it with less people due to skilled worker shortages, we really have to change the way we work fundamentally. And so this means fewer experts will orchestrate a powerful AI. In this hype cycle here, you see already on the right side, there's Gen AI, virtual assistants, and co-pilots, those things. And on the left side, you see a new trend coming up. This is really the augmented connected workforce. And what this can mean specifically can be this whole co-pilot and agent story. And here I brought also some market insights. We see on top left, this is Satya Nadella from Microsoft with the building the agentic world with personal agents, organizational agents. We even have here Agentforce from Salesforce. We have, of course, OpenAI with AI agents that coming up now even can use user interfaces. And we have here the quote from Sam Altman saying that in 2025, the first AI agents will really join the workforce. So, and also, of course, Intershop, we already have our AI sales agent, so our co-pilot for the buyer. Ronnie will show this later, and also some other agents that we use already internally. Now, it may sometimes a little bit confusing what's agent, what is co-pilot. So I have this here, this diagram, let's say, you first have agents as the autonomous AI entity capable of executing tasks on behalf of users. And like as a subset, you have co-pilots and they act as an AI assistant that collaborates with the user. So in an easy image, this is a co-pilot. It's more like a one-to-one. Every employee has its own co-pilot that helps doing things. And we have the agents like this little minions here that they can do a lot of work. If they, if you use them in the right way, they can be really powerful, and they are like the autonomous expert system and working for the company. And one employee can orchestrate multiple agents. This can be a very good seen in this diagram here. On the left side, you see e-commerce manager. She has her co-pilot, and co-pilot is then the UI for AI, means that's the user interface, and where Alan will interact with. And using this co-pilot, Alan can then really orchestrate all those autonomous agents. And then you can have agents for different topics, like the product content agent that can improve product descriptions and product attributes, or other agents for other specialized tasks. And this is then really the human-machine partnership that can help achieve the business goals. We, as Intershop, have made this a very important trend that we follow, and we have, on top of our composable commerce components, we now introduce the agent layer. So we have already the co-pilot for the buyer. We have the product content agent. We are working on this co-pilot for seller, and we have other agents already planned. And this is also important for you as a B2B front runner. We really would like to work with on this topic together with you. So if you're interested in some of our co-pilots on the agents, we would really like to work with you and build some proof of concepts, introduce it so that it really can already bring value in your company. So you can be very in the front of those trends. And to finish it, I have some other visualization that makes it even a little easier to understand the whole architecture of this co-pilot and agents together within a composable architecture. So the layer below here is this composable commerce components. You have, of course, commerce, content, product, you have a front end, you have search and recommendations. And on top of that, we see now that the recommended architecture is to have like a data fabric. The data fabric is like a data platform that can extract data from those components below. So you can get all the orders, for example. And then in this data fabric, you can use the data to make analytics, but also to use AI and make, for example, predictions to predict future sales. And on top of that, you would have your agent, and these agents, they can be connected to the composable commerce components using the APIs, and they can, of course, also access the data fabric to get data and like what you have already done with the data, like for the pricing agent, can use future stock information to adjust the prices accordingly. So this is really the vision that we see for e-commerce. We those agents augmenting the sell side, so e-commerce manager, but they also helping on the buy side to find the right products and to provide service. But I will now hand over to Ronnie, because really he has some good examples so that you can see in detail what this all can mean also for you. So Ronnie.
Yeah, thanks, Niels. Hi, everyone. So we brought you just two examples, one co-pilot and one agent that's already available to further visualize what actually sits behind when we talk about what is the UI for AI and what is actually this little minion. So the first example that we have is the co-pilot, which is our digital sales agent. So it is already available, and basically what it is, you can also have a look at it on our website. There's a short video, but basically it helps you to interact with it. So in this example, it comes probably close to what Leonie was envisioning, this digital branch salesman or this digital sales advisor. So typically here there is a chat interface that you can interact with and do multiple things with it, but it can also go beyond just a simple chat interface, and I'll show you what that actually is. So yeah, so it starts out basically sitting as a layer on top of your web shop. So you can ask it simple questions, but you can also ask it for a certain advice. So that example, basically, that you want to open up a new office, and it will then understand that, you know, opening up an office space requires way more products than simply recommending a desk, for example. You can also ask it, I want to open up an office for 8 people, so it will automatically adjust the quantity towards actually what you're pursuing, and yeah, you can interact with it. What it differentiates it also from an average just chat interface is that it interacts with the shop, with the storefront. So in that case, it added the products to the basket.
Super. Ich habe es gefunden. Vielen Dank.
Okay, super.
Okay. But it can also go beyond, because it's really deeply integrated into our user interface, into the storefront. So it can even pull up comparison pages, pull up recommendations, product data sheets. So you're really free up to with regards to what it can interact with. Yeah, but what you only saw here is the interaction via the classical, chat interface where you have to type. But you can also use it as an interface for processing voice. Yeah. Or in the case of what Leonie said, maybe if a customer doesn't know what the actual product is, it can also take a picture. It will recognize the products up and based on what you submit via the chat interface. And that's really what we are saying, that this is the UI for AI. Yeah, I was speaking a little earlier about also adding additional value with regards to support. So you can also basically go to the Copilot and say, hey, I need a refill or a replenishment for a product that I bought earlier. So once you have connected the order history, it'll automatically say, well, yeah, you bought that printer, and it recommends that product to you. But it can also go deep dive into the product manuals to just answer and give immediate assistance to the customer and just pull up basically the answer once it has access to that data. Yeah, and that brings me to that integration layer that Niels was talking of earlier. So we have equipped it with a seamless integration of a low-code platform where you can connect your data sources with the Copilot. Of course, it only is as smart as you make it. It's only as smart as the data that it has access to, or that it basically knows and that it has been taught. But that makes it also very precise. And I think that comes closer to the vision that Leonie was drafting earlier, that it really then becomes as good as your best sales advisor. Because that's really what we see. We see, especially B2B customers, not finding enough people that can give that advice. We also see the challenge that your customer base becomes more and more international. Of course, it speaks out of the box 180 languages. So you can also start in English and then switch to Dutch and then go to Turkish and then go to German. So it'll does that automatically. And that creates, of course, a lot of value. But I heard what Leonie was saying. So of course it can also go into a bit more into hallucination mode. So that's why we connected it to Spark, so that the product recommendation that it gives come up from the Spark underneath. And that would probably make it even more powerful and basically put the UI on top what Leonie has already accomplished with everything that she has done so far. Yeah, so that was basically what we have in mind when we talk about a co-pilot. So it's your assistant, your digital buddy you can talk to or that can assist you. What I now want to give you is an agent. One of the first agents that we actually pursued based on the feedback that we've got from our customers. They said, well, the most challenges we have in our data and the data quality, and that is also what I was hearing from Leonie, especially for wholesalers, because really the challenge there is the large product volume. It comes from various distributors, so the data quality might be also differ. So there might be suppliers where they have very high product data quality, and then some they have none or not so good. But when you apply technology, Clay Spark, or even AI, you have to try to make it even in order to work with it. And of course, just the pure amount makes it just more difficult to actually cope with it. Yeah. So here's an example that I brought from one of our German wholesalers. I think they're also in this technical space. But they focus very much on electricians with their product assortment. And you can see here that already the product description is not very long and the product attributes are very much limited. In comparison to that, the same product at another wholesaler from Austria, also working in the same kind of space, but you see here, it's similar. It's a different text, but it's similar. It's very much limited. But the question was, well, what if we can use generative AI? And in that case, we really talk about generative AI can help you make up the product descriptions. So that is pretty much the base idea. And yeah, together with our partner, we have done that for that particular customer. So we've created a content agent that can generate product text, but it does way more than that. So first of all, of course, it creates it for the specific target language that we ask it to generate it. But it does also an internet research. So it basically goes out into the internet and tries to grab as much product data it can find for a specific product, and then takes it back, compares it, and generates new product attributes from it. It also creates search terms, and it can handle actually 10,000 products per day. And that was a huge benefit for our customer, because they had an assortment of about 250,000 products. So in about 25 days, they could basically go over their entire assortment to basically make that up. So this is how it works. Of course, it's an agent. It's an invisible minion. It doesn't have a UI at this point. So it takes the product data, as I described, goes out, searches for this product data sheets, compares it, and then creates, based on a prompt, the product text. Actually, in that case, our customer did also tests with their customers and presented them several versions of the text. So we give actually a sample text to the algorithm to write it specific for electricians, so that everything basically fits to their specific needs. And by that, we basically convinced the leadership to basically go with it, because of course, if you give the same product twice to the AI, there comes out two different or slightly different product descriptions, and that always raises concerns, also that Leonie was describing earlier. But in the end, the commercials are just, well, speak for themselves. So here it is, Gebrüder Limmert, they did stick with their original product descriptions. in the original product tab, but next to that, they launched a new, what they call AI product description tab. They launched it just by the end of last year when they turned 100 years. So even a 100-year-old wholesaler basically does that and benefits from it. But you can see here on the right-hand side really the benefit. So it's a rich text that goes also into search indexing for Google, but also stuff like Spark, and it creates new product attributes. And what the next step will be, so we already worked with them a little bit on that, is that we create another agent. It will be a QA agents, because we now started to compare the product images with the product data, and they found inconsistencies that they haven't seen in the data of 250,000 products. So the example that is quite visual is that they're selling a wire with 5 wires in it, or a cord with 5 wires in it, but the image shows one with 3. Actually, the electrician knows immediately the difference and will not buy it, but you never know why the product is not sold unless you basically spot it. And that is also, I think, what Leonie was describing earlier with the cross-sellings. You have to make sure that the data is right, but with the AI, you basically can have a tool at your side that helps you basically manage with it, and by that comes then the acceptance from the management, but also from your customers. Yeah. So same what Niels was saying earlier. At this point, we are looking for partners that wanna deep dive a bit more into that topic. It's always very specific in B2B. We always it's important to see it in the context of each customer. But if you want to learn more about that kind of stuff or have an idea about other agent stuff, reach out to Niels, myself, or anyone in our organization. And I think I hope this explains a little bit how that works. And our idea is basically that we want to present you or bring you practical AI. And that was, I think, what Leonie was saying earlier. Once AI is practical, it will be accepted.
Thank you very much, Ronnie and Niels. I know there's a question in the chat. I will come back to that later. First, we're going to move to we've got a new poll question. So let's drop that first, and then we start in the discussion. Harold, this poll says instant poll and not really a question. Is that right? Or is that my view?
We have the same view, at least so I can say it's right. But
okay.
Maybe that's not the question.
It is an interesting question. I would not know how to answer that one for sure. Well, Harold fixes that. First, maybe the question in the poll or in the chat. Does the AI crawler take the manufacturer's copyright for their content into account, Ronnie? If you create content based on public sources or other websites, how does that work?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if there's a copyright check in it, but it only goes out for publicly available data. It basically searches for PDFs, product spreadsheets, and basically derives the data from there. The copy that it writes is based on the product attributes. So it's not that it takes the product descriptions that it will find there, but it generates actually own descriptions. But I just remembered what Leonie was saying. Of course, it also saves in a data space the fact sheets, its text, and also the product attributes on, because if there comes up the question, why is that attribute there? You can also pull out the data source for that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and probably because this is new land to everybody, and what you've seen OpenAI doing in their answers, where they use generative AI now, is that they refer to the source where they take their data from. So I guess we will see the learnings there over time. This whole concept of the agents and your question for companies to join, I could imagine that those agents create a sort of generic kind of applications. I mean, I guess the struggle to create better content is not restricted to this 100-year-old company. So are those agents probably also collaborations between multiple of your customers to create these solutions? Ronnie?
Well, not yet, because I mean, first of all, there's also always the challenge of the competitive advantage. Just an example that I showed you. I mean, it's basically two wholesalers in a similar kind of environment, but that is actually the role that we want to offer. That we basically can make those agents available to all of our customers. We will not make and cannot make, of course, the data, like resellable. So that needs to stick within each company's authority, similar to what Leonie was describing earlier. But the technological stack, that is our idea, that we bring it to the table. And then it always needs to be fine-tuned and put into the context of each customer, and that is this data layer and the data fabric layer that Niels was describing earlier, that it's always key to connect the right data sources to that particular agent or copilot.
Yeah, so do I interpret it right that the functionality of the agent could be something you can share, and the learnings around that you can share and you can create as a agent, but the actual configuration has to be done based upon that company's situation and their data fabric as you like.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could even be that the foundation model, so in that particular case, it was just a publicly available OpenAI algorithm. I believe it was even the ChatGPT algorithm that they use. But I know there are multiple new foundation models coming up. It's definitely our idea to have them all interchangeable, because what we've seen is that sometimes certain foundation models work better for certain tasks or for particular customers. So, I mean, we don't have a statistical basis that gives proof that this works best for wholesale and this works better for, for maybe for B2C kind of customers or scenarios. But just to keep it simple and flexible. That is definitely the key, and then it becomes also closer to what Leon describing was going small practical steps and create value to basically get the people behind it. That is always the key. Yeah.
To elaborate on that, there was also a question during your presentation, if there are already the improvements in those in the cases you show, do they already show result in terms of higher conversion with these AI generated product descriptions?
Well, the conversion, I don't know from the top of my head, but I know that especially the search index, so the organic search index placement was improved dramatically, because once you create more just relevant content onto your site, just the Google indexing gets up. This particular customer, for example, does not yet have our Spark AI, but initially they said they need to fix their data challenge first, their data inconsistency, before they can go into faceting the search and everything. So I expect this to come next, and even as you've seen that they added an additional product tab, shows this what I always like to call German angst. So even though there are Austrians, it's Austrian angst as well. But it's what Leonie said earlier. I mean, if you give the power away, fully automated to 250,000 products, it's a risk. If you say, I have the algorithm do everything, but I need to confirm everything and double check it, you are again back to, well, not as bad as I would have to write it myself or find a copywriter that writes it. But it's just a learning process. And they just launched it, I believe in November it was. So it's too early to see final results, but the search index that I know, that is already the first result that they've definitely seen.
Niels, you were talking about this concept of agents, and I very much like the way you explain what Copilot is and how these agents work. Is it right that it enables you to do as a company so much more than you could before, or are there any hidden catches in it that makes it more difficult than it was previously?
Yeah, I think the opportunities are gigantic. But of course it can get complicated, and you will have agents talking to agents, and maybe you don't know what happens anymore. So I could imagine that it's very powerful, but it can also go wrong.
Yeah. I can imagine you have to structure it, and that's why my concern would be from a managerial perspective. One is what you have to structure in your organization to have this multitude of all these interesting experiments, but see the trees in the forest, still see the trees in the forest. So in response to this first poll question, there would be there are some people who are open to closely exploring these AI opportunities with Intershop. Unfortunately, we can't see your name out of the respect of your privacy, because that's the policy of this program. But if you would like to step forward and contact either Niels or Harold or Gerard or Ronnie, then we can see if there's a fit into without invading your privacy. Leonie, if you look at these agents and the steps Intershop is taking, what is your view on that?
Interesting. We talked about it before, I have to say, Ronnie and Niels.
Okay.
So I already knew they were working on this. I think it's interesting. I do think, what we also discussed, Arjen, I think it's really a chat bot is for our consumers maybe a step too far. And we are very keen on the fact that if they call us or if they chat with us, we are talking to a real person. So we were a little bit hesitant about the idea of having a chatbot in the way we wanted it to be, what we discussed then. So that was with choosing certain products and helping to the customer to choose a product based on certain specifications. But we are still looking for smaller solutions where we can use this, because we do see the efficiency and the practical efficiency of standard questions like order history or maybe favorite lists or something like that. So we are still searching to implement a certain chatbot, but we are very cautious when and how.
Yeah, I understand. And in our preparation talks, I was very fondly speaking about the chat AI chat version, where you actually, or the voice version, where you actually have these conversations, and those starting to get so incredibly personal and so, even there, and I know that from experiments with other customers, people start getting used to talking to machines, and maybe sometimes even find it even more convenient to talk to a machine because well, that's got more patience with you, and even sometimes. So, but let not go into this discussion. I would like to thank you all very much for these very insightful presentations. Well, what did we learn today? We learned today that there's all these practical experiments, and they are working, and they are a way to prove that things are working, that AI isn't that frightening big thing, but is actually also achievable with practical small steps. At the same time, you must start experimenting. You must start doing things in order to understand how it works, and to build that experience, and also show your organization that it works. And given all the developments in 2025, it is starting to become essential that leadership is drafting a strategy, is creating the space for people to do those experiments, but also to lift up all the learnings to design that into a strategy. That is what we will be, what Intershop will be facilitating. And maybe Gerrit, you can talk a little bit more about that, because we have some interesting news on white papers and action papers and guiding sessions. So please, the last words are yours. After I thank all our speakers for this today's session. It was very pleasant and very insightful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much as well, Arjen, for all your help and all your inspiring content. Special thanks, of course, to Leonie with your practical case that you showed. And of course, Niels and Ronnie as well for the practical examples that you shared and what you've been working on in our Intershop labs already. So indeed, these 5 sessions are summarized in these extra papers, as I already mentioned, and the last one will also be shared with you. And then we will summarize them in we create a white paper that you can share with your leadership team to get your leaders more involved. So with practical advices on how you can use AI and how it will in the future shape B2B commerce. And we will do even more. So we will also organize more sessions. The next session will be on site, and I think it's really interesting to join that. So we will be hosted by one of our customers, Van der Lande. Van der Lande is a manufacturer of conveyor belts that are used on nearly every airport in the world, and in warehouses from Amazon, for example. So it's a really interesting case and a really interesting place to visit. And that will be a front-runners session on site. So here is already the invite. It will be on March 20th. It's in the Netherlands, but still valuable to travel there. Yeah, so you're all very much invited. I see Gear is thanking everybody. I hope that we also answered your question. I mean, in B2B, of course, if it goes wrong with a customer, it can go very wrong. So therefore, of course, you should use the data that is correct, and then the AI will also answer the right answers. Yeah, so that is it. We're at the end of the time. Thank you all for your participation. And yeah, together we will support you on your journey. And of course, I'll ask you in the next sessions, if you have anything to share, please reach out to us. We will happy to have you as a speaker in this community as well. Thank you for your time and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.